Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today, we'll this Kiddushin Daf Samech. We are going to begin on the very bottom of Nun Tes Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. Omer Abaye. L'taimi de Rav. So we mentioned this machlokus between the shitas of Rav and Shmuel when it came to a situation where you had a person who said, I want to marry you today, after 30 days. So in this, within the 30 days, a second person came and was a Makadisher. So since the second person came within the 30 days, we don't know exactly who she's married to. If he said Machshav today, and therefore that was the condition, I want to be married to you today, but I have 30 days to maybe retract. And if he didn't retract, he's married to Mafreya right away, then she's married to the first guy, not the second. On the other hand, maybe he was chayzer. Maybe he retracted. He said, no, I don't want to be married for you now. I'm only going to marry you after 30 days. So if someone came within those 30 days, she's married to the second guy. Which is why Rav says, this doubt is forever. Shmuel says, no. The whole doubt is only for the first 30 days. After 30 days, it's clear that she's going to be married to the first guy, because the first guy really only wanted it as a condition. And therefore, she was really, now after those 30 days, she's retroactively married to the first guy. Time to Rav. So according to the sheet of Rav, who says that there's this case of doubt because we don't know if it's a condition or it's chazara, ba echad. Let's say someone came, the Amrlan said, so the first person did exactly as we said. Marry me now, and after 30 days. In that case, we don't know what he's talking about. Our second guy comes. Let's say a person came. It says, marry me from now until 20 days. So we're getting really confused over here. And who are these men? Okay, but regardless, this is what happened. And as we continue to Samach Amud Aleph, Uval Acher, now on one hand, she has a lot of guys that are interested in marrying her, but they're interesting guys. A third guy comes, now until 10 days. So in all these cases, if Achshav always meant a condition, then she'd only be married to the first guy. If it was definitely a chazara, so then the 10 days are going to be up before the 30 or the 20 days. She should be married to the last guy. But in case it's the suffix, it could be either one. She could be married to any of them. So the Gemara says like this. So he said like this. So he says that so Marishon umiachar and sricha get. When it comes to the first guy or the last guy, she needs a get, because as we're going to understand, Mamanoshach, if it's, we don't know which one it is. If it's chazara, so then she's definitely married to the third guy because the 10 days came first. If it was a tanai, so then she was married to the first guy because he's the first one who made that condition. So that's why the first and third guy need to give a get. Emsai in a shricha get. However, the middle guy doesn't have to because mamanoshach. Need to know havi, then the kama kedushi, the hanachla kedushi. She would only be married to the first guy. Ichazara havoy, if it was the whole thing was chazara, then the bater kedushi, the hanach lav kedushi. Then she's only married to the last guy, not the first one. So pshit avi. So madatema haylish namashim tanamashna chazara, but the boy get to mikol chan v'chan kamashmon. So actually, it's what the chiddush is, a tremendous chiddush, is that the middle guy is off. Why is he off? Because the words mi'achshav li'achar shoshim yom, it doesn't mean potentially either. It can only mean one or the other. He just doesn't know that phrase. Does it mean condition or does it mean retraction? But it doesn't mean that this language could be both. That's not what the suffix means. The suffix is this. These words definitely mean either this or this, not both. Which is why the middle guy is free. Okay. Ula says like this. Rav Yochanan afil mea toivsin bo. Rav Yochanan's din is even 100. It will be, the Kiddushin will be typhus. V'chein Omer Rav Yochanan afil mea toivsin bo. Even 100, the Kiddushin will be typhus. So what exactly does this mean? So Rav Misharshi, Rav Ami, Rav Asi, Asfilach, I'm going to explain to you. So let's look right away into Rashi. The hall lake l'meimer time Rav Yochanan. You can't say the reason Rav Yochanan is mishum de ksaver shtei lashonos b'mashma. It can mean both languages. Umasafkale legabi haygavra b'tanai legabi haych b'chazara. That in this case, again, there's 100 guys that did this. That maybe one guy meant chazara, one guy meant tanai, one person meant this. So the im came. That's the case. L'shayach l'misni Tyson. Then you can't say in the language that the Kiddushin is typhus. The ein tfisa el be'echamehen. Language of tfisa is that only one of them is married to her. So you can't say the language of typhus in that case, because that language would not be tfisa. Yanan hu d'lo yadinan heininu. We don't know who it would be. I mean, the tiny typhsin, masha the spherely sheish b'tzad Kiddushin l'kuhu. He obviously holds there is some element of Kiddushin, that each one has some, maybe 1% married to her, right? So what exactly does that mean? Because again, that's based on the language of tfisa. So it can't be, Rashi is helping us, it doesn't mean that he is saying that some of the people, when they make the same type of a statement, it means chazara, and the same statement could be in Tanai. No, that would not be the case. So then what's the reason of Rabbi Yochanan? So time to Rabbi Yochanan, I'll explain to you, after time to Rabbi Yochanan, Shavi Navshe, they're making themselves kishraga, just like people that are engaged in shraga delivni, people who are bricklayers. What do bricklayers do? What does they have to do anything to this? The chol chad v'chad, rav chol chaver shavak. Each one, they leave space for their friend. So this is bricklaying 101, says Rashi, in Masadir mamish zu al zu. If you would have a house, it says the im kain hari shura hachitzen nofelas. So if you just take a brick and you put another brick on top, even you can smear it with a whole bunch of cement, brick, hundreds of bricks, they're going to fall. The way that you have to lay brick is you have one brick here, one here, and then the middle one is in between those two bricks. That's just the way you have to lay brick. So what does that have to do with us? The idea is that when they made the statement, they did it in order to allow someone else's Kiddushin to be typhus. That's how he understands this. Says Rashi, Kadeshi Yishar Revach, to have space, Batachtaina, Liyoshnia Yoshevis Mixas allow. So you allow that the brick on the top is somewhat touching both bricks. Says a couple more lines in Rashi, Hachinami kol echad matzah makam zman penuya l'kedushin v'tasakun l'oisra. That each one opened up a little bit of an opportunity that everyone is now going to be usher. When the Kiddushin is typhus enough that everyone is probably going to have to give a get. Basically the idea. So Meisiv Rav Chanina. So he asks the following question. Let's say a person says Mihayoim le'achar misa. So again, this language that we saw in yesterday's daf, that get v'enu get. Because if he said le'achar misa and get le'achar misa, so if he was chayzer, so it's not a get. But if it was a condition, then he really meant the get to be chal mihayoim, then it would be a get. So it's a suffix. So we don't know. Is she divorced, and therefore she's not married to this guy? And let's say he dies afterwards. Okay, so she wasn't married to him. Or she was not divorced, and now she's an almana. So what's the difference? She's still not married to him. He's dead. So says the Gemara, the question is she a divorced woman, or is she a widow? And therefore, if she's an almana, so then there's a din of yibum. But since we don't know if she's zokuk, because maybe she was not really married, because the get was chal, so then if that's the case, she doesn't have to do yibum. So what do you do? So in case of suffix, often, as we found in Yevamos many times, we have her we just have them do chalitza, because again, maybe she was zokuk, but we're not going to have her do yibum either, of course, because maybe it was a get. And obviously you can't marry her because this is Grushas Achiv. You can't marry if your brother marries a girl and divorces her, you cannot marry her. The only way you can marry her is only through Yibum. So therefore you can't do Yibum. Bishlam or Rav, so I understand this Gemara according to Rav, Messiah, this strongly supports him because he holds He doesn't know. The whole thing's a suffix. Shmuel Nami, according to Shmuel, it's also not a problem. Hamani Rabbanan he. He'll say that this is just like the sheet of the Rabbanan. Says Rashi, the Masafkahu Itanai Chazara. Yanan Dami Karabi, and I hold like Rabbi. So fine, I just don't hold like this. El Rabbi Yochanan Shira Havi Kol Gitin Misharba, the one who says that there's space. V'lo Klumhu Yibu Miyamim. So in that case, the get is really not. The get is doing nothing, since the get must be a total krisus. So it's not a total krisus. So she's not divorced. So Yavum Yami, so she should be able to do Yibum. So Rabbi get l'hoitzi, the whole purpose of a get is for her to leave a relationship. And Umisa l'hoitzi, as so is the death releases. Mashashir get Gamartu Misa. So he explains that whatever was left over by the giving of the get, the Misa took over the rest. So therefore, Yibum is not done. Armulei Abaya, Midami, how can you compare this? Get, Motzim Rishos Yavam. If there was a get, then she's no longer able to do Yibum. She's removed from doing Yibum. Misa, Machnisa Rishos Yavam. Her husband's death brings her to do Yibum. So they accomplish two of the polar opposite things. A get makes her not do Yibum, and her husband's death makes her do Yibum. So how could you say they combine? There's a whole issue of a person says, here's a get if I die. So harizeh get. In that situation, it's a get. So let's Rashi. If you say, here's a get imati pshitalon, it's obvious the tanaihu. In that situation, you're not retracting. You're certainly saying as a condition. In that situation, it is most 100% a get right away. From the time that you die, it was a get retroactively. So therefore, it would be a get. If you say get mihayom imati, there's no suffix over there. So what? So here, we're afraid you may do yibum in this case as well, even though she's totally not zokuk. So in the case of Mayom Imati, she's 100% divorced, so she should not do Yibum because she is not married. She definitely received a get. So if the man died afterwards, it doesn't matter. She shouldn't do Yibum. But if we allow Yibum to take place in the case above, so then people are going to do Yibum in this case as well. And you should not allow, Yibum cannot be done in this case. So therefore, that's the reason why we say better just do chalitza over there, so no problems. So benigzim hayoyim imati the tachloitz. Why do we say that nothing has to be done in that case? We should at least require chalitza to be done. Atu meyom achamisa. Because if you don't do chalitza in mahayom imati, which we don't require, then people are going to start doing nothing also when it comes to the other case of miyom achamisa. But don't you need to do chalitza? It says, the problem is that once we do chalitza, you may, or instead of doing chalitza, do yibum, and we don't want them to do yibum. So how come in our case, if she does chalitza, maybe they'll do yibum? It says, okay, fine. Let her do yibum. Chashash d'Rabbanan who. This is just a chashash d'Rabbanan. Okay, so let's see the next Mishnah. Ha'omer li'isha. A person says to a woman, Harit mikadeshes li, marry me, beautiful, but he throws in a condition. Almanah she'etin loch mosayim zuz. On condition, I give to you $200. Harit mikadeshes v'huitin. He has to give that money. Okay, it seems pretty obvious. We're going to discuss the chiddush in that. If he says, Amna she'etan loch mikan v'ad lamed yoim, I'm going to give it to you within 30 days. Nasan lo b'tak shashim, if you gave it within those 30 days, mikadeshes, yimav and mikadeshes. Also pretty simple. Amna she'eshli mosayim zuz, on condition that I have $200. I'm loaded, man. I have a lot of money. And interesting, the mosayim zuz is the ksuba. I have money to cover the ksuba, basically, right? Harizim kadeshes v'yeshli, he has to have that money. Amna she'arech mosayim zuz, on condition I show you 200 zuz, maybe in a vault somewhere. Harizim kadeshes v'yarela, as long as you show it to her. It sounds like maybe it's not even if it's yours. And v'im hera al shulchan mikadeshes. Well, not so fast. If you show it to her on the table, that's not a good Kiddushin. It says Rashi, v'im haya shulchani v'herala moish she'enin shalo, she wasn't interested in you taking her to the local savings and loan bank around the corner and show her some money there. That doesn't mean anything. She was expecting, I want to show you that this is my money. Okay. Says the Gemara, Rav Huna Omer B'hu Yitain, Rabbi Huda Omer Likashi Yitain. So he says, on condition that I give you $200. The question is, when is the Kiddushin Chal? Is it right away, or is it only after he actually gives the money? What's the difference? He does give the money, and they're married either way, and everything's fine. So first of all, the Gemara is going to explain this. Rav Huda Omer B'hu Yitain Tanai Havi Mekayim Tanai V'Ozl. So once the condition was done, so therefore we say that they were married from all the way before. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Likashi Yitain L'chi Yoy L'Kedushi. The Kiddushin is only afterwards. So again, my benayu, what's the difference? So let's say in the meanwhile, in the middle, she is mekadosh herself to another man. So Rav Huna will have a Kiddushin. Rabbi Yehuda have a Kiddushin. So the question is, does that second Kiddushin mean anything? So if she was already married from originally it was a Tanai, then the second guy, the money that she got from the second guy means nothing. But if it's only after she received the $200 from this man, is it a Kiddushin? So if she was Makabel Kiddushin from someone else before, then she's married to that other guy. And the truth is, Tanan Nami Gabi Gittin, Ki Hagam. This is almost identical when it comes to Gittin. Here's your get on condition that you give to me $200. Right, so he gets his money back. He gives her the $200 at Kiddushin, and that $200 he gets back at Gershon. Obviously, they're two separate cases, not necessarily two different people. But it's interesting. Vihi titain, she gives it. She has to give that money for it to work. Rav Huna Omer vihi titain, Rav Huna Omer l'kashetitain. When is the get chal? Only when she gives the money, or right away? Rav Huna Omer vihi titain tanahavi mekam tanavi azla. So she's already divorced. Rabbi Yehuda Omer l'kashetitain, only once she gives the money. Get. It's only get at the time when she actually gives him the money. Okay, so in that situation, apparently that is the machlokas. Again, what's the difference? She's divorced either way. Samacham beis my benayu nikra haget. Let's say the get was ripped up, or she'avad, or it gets lost. Could be other nafkaminas as well, yibum, whatever. Or it says shepashta. Taisus asks, "Lo ratzu shnoi ikaminayu shepashta yadav kibul kedushin mi'acher." Right, because if she was already divorced, then she could marry someone else. Okay, I entice this way. Doesn't want to say that example. Well, Rav Huna havi get. Rabbi Huda lo havi get. Utsricha. It seems like the same thing. So why couldn't we just derive one from the other without mentioning them both? We need them both. Diashmin and Gabi Kiddushin. Baha kaimer Rav Huna. Maybe in that case, did Rav Huna say this din when it comes to Kiddushin? Mi shum de oiva kasi, because he's trying to bring her close. Says Rashi, umihir lekarva alav. His intention is to have her come married to her quickly. Right? He wants to be married to her quickly. But Gomer Kiddushin bepruta shetet shenasanla. Therefore, he wants the pruta that he gave to her. Right? Because he did give a pruta, but that wasn't enough. I mean, he said, "I'm giving you this pruta, and I want you to be married to me with this pruta, but I'm also going to be 200 zuz. But I want the marriage to be chal right away." Of a gershon or a chakakas, he's separating. Rabbi Yehuda, that he would want to push it off. He is not embarrassed to get money from her when it comes to the get. When it comes to Kiddushin, she may be a little bit embarrassed to collect money from him. On condition, I give you $200. Even though the get was ripped up, it says beferish that it's still a good get. Must be because the get was chal from the beginning. However, she should not marry someone else until she actually gives the money. So anyway, this is clearly a kasha on Rabbi Yehuda. V'od Tanya Omer lahar zegitech almanasha titin lemosayim zuz. Here's your get and condition. Give me $200. Umes, and the dude died. Nasna, if the money was given in Zekukul Yavam, because once the money is given, she's now divorced, so there's no Yibum. Lo Nasna, if she didn't give the money, Zekukul Yavam. She can now give it to the brother, O Aviv, to his father, O Echamin HaKroivim, or one of the Yarshim. One says that it has to be given to me, not to my relatives. Mar Savar, he meant if it'll Yarshai, the get will be chal, even if you give it to my Yarshim afterwards. You call it Mia, tonight have it to Rabbi Huda. Again, we have a kash on Rabbi Huda. We see clearly it's a condition, and it's a tanai, and therefore it goes back, and therefore it would be considered to be a good get. So Yehuda, Hamani Rabbi, this is actually in accordance to the Shita of Rabbi, who says the famous line, Rabbi, Kol Omer Almanas, whenever you use the language of Almanas, Ka'omer Ma'achshav Dami. It's comparable to you saying from now. So whenever you say the word Almanas, that on condition is really saying it's totally on this statement, and I want it to be chal right away. So whenever you use the word Almanas, no one's going to say it's Chazara. Uplegi Rabbanale, but the truth is the Rabbanan disagree with that. I hold the Rabbanan. Okay, it's no problem. I hold the Rabbanan. Okay. Fine. Rav Huna, Rabbi. Kol Ramanas Gufa. Getting back to what we said before. Rav Huna, Rabbi. Kol Ramanas Kol Machshav Dami. So Rav Zera Ki Havinan beBavel. When we're in Bavel, Haviyam Rinan, we would say Hadiyam Rabbi Huda Rav that Kol Ramanas Kol Machshav Dami. Pliga Rabbanalel. We said that there was actually a machlokas. The Rabbanan disagree with that statement. Kisalki Lahasam, when we got up to there, Ashkachelu Ravasi, we found Ravasi, the Yosef Carmelo Mishmei Rav Yochanan, that he was saying in the name of Rav Yochanan, he was saying the following. This is Rashi's Kishali Sil Eretz Yisrael, when I went up to Eretz Yisrael. Hakol Moedim, everyone agrees by Ramanas Kermer Machshav Dami. No, everyone agrees, even the Rabbanan. So what do you mean? I thought there was a machlokus. Lo nechaku, they only argue, says Rashi Kloimer, Lo masafka l'hol Rabbanan itanayi chazara el mayom achamisa. Lo nechu el mayom achamisa. Their whole machlokus is on, this is all Gittin too, this whole daf basically, is mayom achamisa. That's where there's a suffix. Is it the tanai? Is it the chazara? But if you say the word almanas, it's definitely tanai. I vasanye. Is that what the word vasanya means? Look at Rashi. No, vasanya is menachusa. Here I'm going to prove you that this is true, that the whole machlokus is om yom achamisa, because it says the following machlokus: miyom achamisa get no get. Rabbi Omer because that get. So we see clearly the whole machlokus is dafka in a situation miyom achamisa. However, if a person says a manas, everyone holds kolam manas kim omer machshav dami. Rabbi Huda, Almanas Nami Pligi. So Rabbi Huda says, no. They also argue, the Rabbanan also argue about Almanas. So if that's the case, why are the Rabbanan arguing only there? Nifli Balmanas. Why don't we argue by the case of Almanas? Because I also hold they argue there. It's going to show the strength of Rabbi. Nami Harzaget. That not only when it comes to the din of Almanas, but even the case of Miyom Achamisa, which sounds pretty strong, that maybe he's referring to Achamisa and get Achamisa, nonetheless he still says it's a get. Why don't we hold like the Rabbanan? Why don't we say the other way around and show the Koyach of the Rabbanan that even if you say Almanas, it's not a good get? So we have the answer we find many places, koyach de hater adif. We'd rather mention the koyach de hatera, something which is allowing her to go free, which is a get, and therefore we'd rather mention the sheet of the Rabbanan who hold that it is a get, even in the case of miyoim l'achar misa. I'll make sure I just said that correctly. I meant Rebbe. It's better to that's what I meant. It's better to say the shita of Rebbe that Kezeget, because even in the case of Yom Misa, Rabbi again says that, so he says, the Rabbi. It's much better to show the koyach of Rabbi because that's the koyach, the heter, even by Yom Misa and also by Almanas. So in all cases, they hold it's mutter, and therefore it's better to show that than the other way around. Almanas shetelcha mekan. So pshita ma'adatema lav tanaihu. Maybe this is not a condition. Luzruzi karmer kamashmon. Maybe this was just to was zares. Says Rashi. V'kapta ashleishim yoyim. The 30 days is not really 30 days. Elazruzi ba'alma kamer. He was just saying it to try to push up the thing. So maybe the 30 days isn't exact. No. We follow whatever he said. Amanashe shemusayim zuz v'necha shema yeshlo. Why do we say it's if he doesn't have the 200? So it's not a good Kiddushin. What do you mean? Maybe he does. So he just maybe he has 200 zuz somewhere in Modai. V'od tanya chashin shema yeshlo. We find elsewhere that there's this chashash that maybe he does have, says Rashi. Mashma sheish edim sheish holav hachi edim b'kedeshim b'teres la'achar b'may nechas shema yeshlo. So your answer is you're right. Lo kasha hab kedushi vadi hab kedushi suffik. It doesn't mean edim b'kedeshes. It means it's not a kedushi vadai. It certainly is a kedushi suffik because it's possible he does have the money. Okay. Fine. Hab kedushi vadi hab kedushi suffik. Amnash arich mosayim zuz. This was actually question 5 as well. Amnash arich mosayim zuz. I'm going to show you $200. Show me the money. So Tana lo nischavna el liros mishaloi. As I said, it has to be mishaloi. It has to be his money because her intention is not seeing money. She can see money in any cash register. The whole chiddush is she was thinking it meant his money. V'im herolo al shulchan el b'kedeshes. If she shows it on the table, right, in some bank, right, some money exchanger, it's nothing. So pshita, obviously it's not good. Even though he will get some profit, says Rashi. Let's say he gets half of it. So since even though he's actually going to get some of the profits, maybe that would still work. No, it doesn't matter. That's not a good Kiddushin. I'm going to stop there. Let's look at one more question. I think TB 28. We don't know im yeshlo mahadin. So we say harza something mugdashes. Chayshinan shema yeshlo. Doesn't mean that it's not a good Kiddushin. It just means it's a something mukadeshes. It's not considered, when you say anim kadeshes, means it's not a vadai Kiddushin, but a suffix it still is because shema yeshlo. Adkan.